So Rob, remember to take yourself off mute. And he is going to introduce our guest speaker for today. Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good, sorry. Yeah, so I'm proud to introduce our very timely speaker, Jessica Evans. She's a Senior Vice President of Commercial Banking with Regions Bank. Thought it'd be neat to hear how from someone in the industry of how the PPP program is going. A little bit about Jessica. She's a 15-year officer with Regions Bank. She's been in the banking segment since starting her career with Regions and is a past multiple chairman's winner, which means she's in the top 10% of the bank. Jessica's main focus in her career is being a trusted advisor to her clients and ensuring an excellent customer experience. She has a love for growth. She likes to see small businesses grow. She owned a small business while in high school and in college. It helped pay her way through high school and college, through college. She's a current member of the UNF Business Advisory Board, member of Rotary, and heads up the Valley Ridge Early Act Rotary program. And previously, she's participated with as a board of trustees and treasurer for WJCT. She's on the board of Flagler College Business Advisory. She's been recognized for a number of awards and has been a recipient. Some of the awards she's received are awards such as Volunteer of the Year for Small Business Development Center, SBA Lender of the Year in 2011 for the state of Florida, named one of the top 50 influencers for small business, named as a Woman of Distinction by the Girl Scouts, one of Jacksonville's 40 under 40, and she's also been the Rookie of the Year for Rotary. So I look forward to hearing what Jessica has to say. She can take it away, Jessica.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wow, that was a lot. I will do my very best. I think everyone's probably heard something about the PPP program. It's been on the news, I think, every minute of every day for the last 2 to 3 weeks. So we have lived it. We have breathed it. Most of us are still just trying to get ready for the next funding. So I can kind of talk a little bit about what the program is, and I can tell you where we are today. And then I think there's probably going to be a lot more questions, and there will be information that I can say up front. So essentially, the PPP program, or the CARES Act program, is something that SBA and the federal government had put in place to help businesses keep their employees. That is the number one goal, and that is the majority of the funding is supposed to be used for. So essentially what we're doing is they're allowing up to 2.5 times the average payroll to be given to a business owner. And then they're going to audit the business later. And as long as they maintain the level of employees that they did, I think they're going to test it probably in December of how many employees they had. There's a percentage they have to maintain. I think it's 90%. Then they're able to forgive the loan or the program amount that they were able to receive. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Because now the neighbor's cutting the grass. So I want to make sure. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So 75% of the money of the entire loan, so let's say it's $100,000, 75% of that, or $75,000, can be used for payroll, and the additional 25% actually is able to be used for electric, mortgage, rent costs, things that way. It can be full-time and part-time people. There is a cap under this current program of 500 employees, so if you have more than 500, you're not eligible for this program. There's another larger one that is coming down the pike. Nonprofits are able to be part of this program, which is the first time really that SBA has ever done lending for nonprofits, which is really important. Bear with me, I'm just going through some of my checklist items. It ran out of money. It took about 14 days for it to actually go through the first funding and run out of money. It was a nightmare, I'll be honest with you. The SBA E-Tran system went down, so every application we submitted got either stuck, returned, rejected, or they just never received it. So they quickly were able to fix that. The banks basically had to create portals within, I think it was 2 days to be able to receive applications. So that was a really big deal too. A lot of the larger banks had good setups, but didn't have enough staff. The smaller banks didn't have the technology, and the middle banks like us had a little bit of both of the problems of staffing as well as the technology. You're required to send in, again, assuming that it gets funded and approved, which we anticipate that it will, the payroll information for sure. There's a very brief application, probably the easiest application I've ever seen. And that is submitted to your bank. When the bank receives it, our job is to verify the information. They've given the ownership of that to the bank as far as ensuring that the payroll numbers are pretty close and accurate to what you're submitting for refunding or for funding. Once we approve that, we have to go through and update the application for anything that the SBA may deem inaccurate. I'll give you an example. When they first opened the applications, they were only putting in 5-digit zip codes. They came back 2 days later and said, no, now we want 9-digit zip codes. So we had to go into every single application and update every application with a 9-digit zip code. So there's a lot of kind of back and forth that we had to go through to make sure that everything was correct. So when we did push it to SBA, they could get the funding done. So about a week after the program started, they opened it up to 1099. So that was another big change. Once the 1099 people were able to apply for the money, the banks got even busier, and then the money ran out very quickly. Like I said before, they are anticipating that they are going to open it up and get it approved and running tomorrow. I don't think it's going to last 14 days. This is now just me, not the bank. So I will take the bank head off for a minute. I don't think it's going to last 14 days. Not all of my clients were able to get funding. I think I've had more than half get it, but not everybody for different reasons. And, you know, whether they were missing a document, something didn't make sense, there wasn't a zip code in the place that they wanted it. So they've been waiting at the SBA, and I think I've got 9. And I'm one banker of 5 times all the banks in the United States. It's going to be a massive number that comes in. What we're all doing right now is we're all double checking our applications. We're making sure that nothing can hold it up, because as soon as they open that system on and turn that on for submission, everybody's going to push it. I also would not be surprised if the system crashes again when it opens up, because I think that the volume is going to be triple what it was, at least from the beginning. That's a whole lot of just all over the place information. And I do apologize. Normally I'd have a PowerPoint and be a little more prepared, but I moved yesterday. I bought a house and closed a house and homeschooling a couple kids. So it's been an interesting few weeks. So, but happy to answer questions, or if I missed anything, please let me know.
So I do have one question for you that's come up on the chat. And the question is, the 500 employee caveat was per location. That allowed much larger businesses to receive millions in loans, leaving many smaller businesses with nothing. Is that going to be corrected in the new wave of funding?
Okay, and I will first start out by saying I'm not an SBA expert. This program is brand new, so I'll answer to the best of my ability, but I do recommend that everybody gets on SBA.gov. They put the updates there on a regular basis. My understanding with the 500 cap was actually specific for restaurants and hotels, things like that. So it's not everybody can do more than 500 employees. Having said that, I have not heard anything of them changing that. I don't think that they have the capacity to be able to make a change at this point, because the volume is so high right now.
So another question. Jessica, can you give examples of some of your clients, number of employees, and amount loaned or amount seeking?
Oh, sure. Happy to. And the really amazing thing is I have them all over the place. So I had one who applied, I think my smallest one was about 45,000. And it's a small retail company that really is newer. My largest one was 10 million. I had actually an electric co-op apply, and they are at 498 employees. So I've had really the gamut. I'd say the average one typically seems to be, I'm going through my head, 400,000 to 500,000 seems to be about the average. A lot of manufacturing have applied. A lot of restaurant, really every single industry, I'd say, every single client almost of mine, and I bet quite a few have applied for it. So it's really all over the board.
Do you have to apply through the bank, your business banks with, or can you apply through any bank?
So the way that it came out originally, and I think that this is probably still the case, is that the banks as a whole are trying to apply with their clients. And there's two reasons for that. One is the volume, because the volume is so high that we don't want to not take care of one of our clients because we have an influx of others coming in. The other thing that is important is that the government is putting a lot of ownership on the banks for KYC, or know your customer. If I don't have somebody with an account, I can't really go out and visit them right now because of, COVID. So it would put us in a really bad position and potentially have fraud if I don't know who you are and you're applying with me. So that's why they really kind of pushed everybody to go to their primary bank if possible.
Do applications have to be resubmitted if not responded to originally?
I need probably a little bit more information. So my applications that I've submitted are sitting at the SBA, and the client can go online and check the status to see where they are. If somebody submitted an application and they didn't get an application number, and that's how our system works, I'm assuming it's probably similar, then that seems like it wasn't received. And then I think you would definitely want to follow up for sure.
Okay. Any other questions? So what is the turnaround time from application to funding?
Depends on the day. It really, really does. So for the first 2 weeks, it was just crazy. So it's kind of hard to really get a good turnaround time. But I've had, let's see, one client fund, they got their documents. I think they received funding 4 days later. So it's really 2 to 4 days once the documents are signed. We're emailing all the documents over. So they can e-sign right back. We were overnighting at first, and we stood up e-signing. So it can be as quick as the same day, but I would anticipate with the influx coming in, it's going to slow down to probably that post-signing 2 to 4 days.
In general, is the banking industry pro getting back to work as soon as it seems safe, or only once there is no risk?
I think it kind of depends on who you ask. I don't know if it's a bucket. I cannot wait to get back to work. I've actually still closed loans through this, believe it or not. I've had to make a couple trips to Georgia. I've got another one, 2 more this week. So we're trying to do as best as we can given the circumstances. But I mean, our focus has completely shifted to trying to save our clients. I am so worried about what's going to happen to our businesses here that we're just trying to share all resources and just pull everybody together as best as we can.
Has your bank had to increase staffing on a temporary basis?
I think I shouldn't say increase. What they've done is every single person has been redirected to this. So you are now looking at somebody who can approve a loan. I've never approved a loan in my life. We have branch staff that are auditing applications. We've got literally every single line of business has shifted their focus onto this. And I'm assuming they'll do that for the next one. I think there's a new one, not new one, but one coming down called Main Street that I believe will take our resources again for that. I don't know enough about that really to speak about it, but it's supposed to be for the larger companies. So just FYI would be good for you guys to look at as well.
Excellent. Do you recommend getting with your banker and filling out an application before the program reopens?
So the applications are done online. There's no way to fill it out in person. I think there were a few circumstances where they had to do that for technical issues for a client, but if you do it online, it's a lot quicker. I would get with your banker to ensure that everything that you have is correct and that you have everything in place. The biggest thing on the application is there's areas where you upload everything. You want to make sure you're uploading it into the right location. And then the best thing that helped me out, because I had to audit and touch every single one, was having a place that shows in one document the number of employees, the payroll for the year, and the average payroll, month over month. If we can get that in place, it will help us push it a lot quicker into the system.
How does a self-employed person verify payroll?
That's a good question. I think that employed person would show they should be, I'm assuming, writing a salary document. Let me get back to that one. I'll see if I can figure that one out while I'm answering the other questions, if that's okay.
That's fine. And if you need to research it, you can always just send an answer back to Rob. And
Yep, that might
share
be better.
Yeah. So is there a high risk of fraud?
There is. We've already identified quite a few, believe it or not. It's, again, that goes back to know your customer. Again, they put a little bit of ownership, not a ton, but a little bit of ownership on the banks to verify that that number makes sense for that client, which is why that we're really looking at the 941s and the 940s. And, you know, does this make sense for, you know, a 2-employee person to apply for $100,000 number, whatever the case is that way. Out of all of my clients, though, I only had one that was wrong, like drastically wrong. And that was only because she included her 1099s. So I've had a really good experience, but I think there have been quite a few others that probably have not.
How does the PPP loan application process differ from the regular loan process with respect to forms, documents, and other documents required, etc.?
It is completely different. And I think that if it didn't help my clients, most of my clients would have killed me, because I had actually asked them for all the SBA documents we normally would get, because I knew as soon as it turned on, it was going to be insane. So I asked for our normal 3 years business, 3 years personal, sign your P&L, do an SBA PFS. And at the end of the day, and please mind, you got to realize they did not give us the final rules until 11 o'clock the night before the program opened. So we had no idea what they were going to want. But at the end of the day, it really is your most recent financial, either for the tax return for last year or the year to date for last year, and the 940s and 941s, and to fill out the application information. There's no underwriting. There is nothing other than verifying and certifying the information. It is completely crazy for SBA.
Wow. Any other questions for Jessica? We'll give them a few minutes here. I don't see any other questions, Jessica. If some happen to come in over the next few minutes, well, here's one. How about salons and barbershops where independent contractor-like relationships exist? Can they get loans under this program?
Yeah, so if they're a 1099, they can. And that the main program did. If they're not in a 1099 situation, I don't know the answer to that part. However, I will say again that, you know, the SBA.gov has a frequently asked questions area that you could probably get a lot of that detailed information from.
Okay. And there's one I see that I missed. What changes would she recommend to the PPP program process if she were advising?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. I mean, here's the thing. Everybody did the best they could with what they had. I mean, this was a very short program. I think they really made it as simple as they could. I don't think anybody truly anticipated the level of volume that was going to come through. And I mean, it's just, I also think that it would have been, you know, more advisable to be a little bit stricter about who they were going to give the money to. There's some people that I know have applied that aren't necessarily really hurting, or they're in an industry that's not really affected as much. Whereas somebody who really needs it might not be able to get it because the other person got in front of them, or, you know, having somebody who has, you know, those 500 employees, or in some cases more, right? You have multi locations for franchises or things that way that can really kind of skew the numbers slightly. So I really had thought that maybe if they had done more of a revenue focus on it, that would have helped a little bit too. Really focus on our small to medium-sized businesses.
So I'm not sure if you're looking at the chat stream, but Beverly Flanagan gave you a great job, Jessica. You don't need to You don't need to look at it.
Thanks.
I'm watching and getting the questions for you.
I just was reading the hippie comment. I was just waiting a second. What?
That would be our very own past president, Barry Covington.
I love it.
But
I
not a
love
problem.
it.
We have another question. What is the best source for trying to get information on the program?
A fortune teller first, and then no. So SBA.gov really will have the most up-to-date information because that's where they post it. I watch the news a whole lot because I feel like we get a little bit more there than we do on the website initially. And then just stay really close to your banker. They're getting information as best as they can, as fast as they can. Half the time it's wrong. I've had to go back and change things a few times because either they changed the rules or we tried it this way and it didn't work. We had to go another way. So I would just be keeping all lines of communication open. And I will say this, for anyone who's had an experience working with the bank and maybe didn't get a good response or it's not as quick as they're used to, just know that the banks have literally been, I mean, I've literally personally worked the last 2.5 weeks for 14 hours a day, all through Easter, all through everything while doing stuff. So everyone's really trying really hard and we all want our clients to get the piece of the pie, but you know, it's really hard news to share when that doesn't happen. So just be mindful of that, I guess.
Very good. Any other questions for Jessica? I'm gonna, let's see, you got another comment. Great work. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from Matus? Matus, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Well done, Jessica. You got another, if you watch the chat, you'll see them. So will you be graduating this year, Matus?
I will be not, fortunately. I'll be graduating next year. I'm in my junior year now. But also, so we have like an final exams that includes the last 4 years of high school, and you have to graduate from 4 subjects at least. And so the written exams have been canceled, and the oral exams have been postponed, and they will be, I believe, in 3 weeks once the school will be open again. So, yeah.
So our workers, there's a question for you here, Matus. Are workers working remotely or still going into the office?
No, so they recommend to set up a home office for everybody that can. And also the major factories such as Volkswagen or Kia Motors companies have been shut down for, I believe now 3 weeks and for over 3 weeks. And now they are trying to get back, but slowly and with restrictions to have a good hygiene and, you know, like the stuff to help prevent the spreading the coronavirus. So most of the workers are working from home, and if the factory workers, they are either at home or working on a restricted time periods or something.
Very good. And Matus, if you look at the chat, you'll see where there was a comment earlier from Beverly saying, we're so glad your sister is okay. And we absolutely are very thankful that your sister is okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Well, I want to welcome Marcus and Jacob to our club. It's exciting to be inducting new members during this crazy time. It's always exciting to induct new members. I also would like to remind everyone about the district assembly training that'll take place this Thursday afternoon and Saturday morning. Go to the district website, rotarydistrict6970.org, and you will see the agenda and links for those Zoom meetings. Take part in them. Next week, our speaker is Rick Mullaney, the founding director of the Public Policy Institute of JU. And just a reminder that there is a board meeting following this, so board members, please stay online. Thank you, everyone. It was great to see you all. And Patty, if you would ring the bell, we will end with service above self. One who profits most serves the best. Ding. Thank you, everyone. And board members, please stay on.